Most households aren't struggling because they spend too much on coffee. They are struggling because their entire financial strategy is centered on maintaining liquidity for someone else's balance sheet. When you rely on a traditional job and a basic savings account, you are providing the capital that banks and institutions use to build their own wealth. Building wealth that survives recessions and market crashes requires a shift toward verified institutional mechanics. These are the strategies used by the top 1% to lock in leverage that lasts for generations. Without a proper cash buffer, one minor emergency can trigger a total financial collapse. When an unexpected bill arrives, many people are forced to sell off their investments at the bottom of the market or swallow 25% credit card interest just to stay afloat. This puts you on the defensive. You become perpetually vulnerable to forced liquidations, losing the chance for your capital to grow over the long term. Institutional buyers don't hold cash to earn a tiny bit of interest. They hold it for leverage. Having cash on hand gives you the option to act when others are forced to sell. During the 2008 crash, while the public called for help, institutional buyers used their stored liquidity to acquire high-grade, distressed assets at steep discounts. We saw the same dynamic during the liquidity freeze in early 2020. This chart shows the sharp market decline centered around March 16th. While retail investors panic sold at the bottom, those with cash were able to buy in before the immediate recovery spike. A dedicated cash buffer acts as an offensive tool. It prevents you from being forced to sell your core assets and allows your capital to compound without interruption. However, holding too much cash introduces a different problem: inflation. If your income stays flat for years, your actual purchasing power moves backward. Stored liquidity protects your base, but it cannot build an empire on its own. To stay ahead of inflation, you have to aggressively scale your income. Relying on a standard 2% annual raise is rarely enough to keep up with the market. Data shows that professionals who strategically switch roles or renegotiate their terms every 2 years capture much larger lifetime earnings. Treat your primary career as a cash-flowing asset. This means continuously upgrading your skills, asking for equity-based compensation, or building a secondary revenue stream. Once your income increases, avoid the mistake of chasing high-yield investments with a small amount of capital. Trying to squeeze an extra 2% out of a small portfolio creates minimal returns, while exposing you to unnecessary risks. This diagram shows the mathematical reality. To make $10,000 from a 7% yield, you need over $140,000 working for you in the first place. Optimizing your savings rate and increasing your active income provides a faster, risk-free return than trying to out-invest poor spending habits with limited capital. Before trying to grow your capital, you have to stop the leaks. Defensive holding structures prevent your money from draining away through unnecessary fees or lifestyle inflation. Institutional wealth is built on assets that pay you for the privilege of ownership. A luxury watch or a gold bar sitting in a safe might go up in value, but they demand cash to hold and protect. Predictable assets like commercial real estate, dividend equities, or self-storage networks generate cash automatically. This revenue can then be used to buy your next asset class without ever touching your original principal. Wages scale linearly with your time. There are only so many hours you can work. But as this graph shows, equity ownership scales exponentially with the growth of the entire system. Sustained wealth is mathematically impossible through fixed wages alone. It requires owning systems that grow independently of your time. Owning equity is the goal, but sloppy pricing when you buy those assets destroys your efficiency. If you overpaid on the way in, you have already lost a portion of future growth. Most people accept retail price tags as absolute laws. In high-value transactions, sticker prices and interest rates are merely opening offers. The math is consistent. Saving $10,000 on a real estate acquisition or a commercial contract provides the exact same net increase to your balance sheet as making $10,000 in pre-tax income. You must also look at the industry you operate in. If your sector has a structural ceiling on income and the people 10 years ahead of you aren't living the life you want, it is better to move your skills into an expanding market early. Negotiating every major expense and moving away from stagnant industries accelerates your capital growth just as effectively as a salary bump. When your income spikes, it triggers the trap of lifestyle creep. Within months, an upgraded home or a better car stops giving you a dopamine lift and simply becomes your new baseline cost. Financing assets that decay over time guarantees compounding losses. A new car loses 20% of its value the moment it leaves the lot. If a tool doesn't produce revenue, buy it with cash or don't buy it at all. To separate yourself from temporary high earners, you must follow the source bucket protocol. Before you buy anything non-essential, you must identify which bucket is paying for it. This system has 3 parts: active income, core principal, and asset returns. The protocol is simple. Reinvest your active income into the core principal to keep it growing, and spend only the yield generated by your assets. This ensures your core portfolio stays intact while your lifestyle is funded entirely by the surplus. Your assets perpetually print wealth for your future, while your principal remains protected. Continuing to rely on linear wages and standard retail advice keeps you on a financial treadmill. By executing these institutional mechanics, you build a balance sheet that finally grants you true ownership.